Hello everyone, welcome to Wildwood Studio. I'm Sarah, and in this video, I'm going to be burning some wood rounds that I found at Walmart. I've had some pretty good luck with random wood rounds that I found at the dollar store and on Amazon, so when I saw these, I figured I'd give them a try. As soon as I opened the package though, I thought my luck must have run out. The little ones seem fine, but they're very small, so I'm not sure what I'll be able to fit on them, and I initially thought the big one was fine, until I started sanding and realized that there's a bit of wood filler or something in the middle of the round, so that's not great. I won't be able to burn that, so I'll have to make sure that there isn't anything important on that spot, and maybe I'll just be able to paint it brown so that it blends in. The first step was to sand these, so I removed the twine and did that, and then I stared at them for about 2 hours. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but I just could not find my inspiration when it came to these little pieces of wood. Eventually I decided to start with something simple, so I did this Bearpaw. The wood feels to be on the denser side, so I really wanted to see how it burns with these little ones first. And I was right, it was a bit harder, so it needed a higher temperature, but it still wasn't too difficult. It's very smooth and doesn't have a lot of wood grain, so that meant it was pretty consistent to burn, which was nice. I decided to stipple this design just to make it more interesting, so I outlined it with my knife tip pen, then stippled it in with my ball tip pen, leaving a lighter area in the center of each section. The wood grain here was almost non-existent, which was good, but there was a little dark spot in the middle of each piece that burned so easily it was like burning styrofoam. So I ended up with a pretty deep dent in that one spot by accident. Overall, this took me about 25 minutes to burn, and I think it would have been faster if I'd just filled it in solid. Next I did this little bear silhouette. I left the bear blank and burned the tree line around it, so it's kind of a reverse silhouette. This is definitely a design I've seen around, so I don't think it's exactly original, but I still think it turned out nice. And it was the only one of these that sold at Comic-Con, so I guess people liked this design. I did the outline for this with my ball tip pen and filled it in with my spoon shader. This also took me around 25 minutes, and I burned the whole thing on the highest temperature that I could set my burner to. It was at this point that I decided to put on a mask. I've been a little worried lately since I've been burning more often and trying different woods that I might be inhaling too much smoke. So even though it's uncomfortable, I think I'm gonna wear a mask more often than I have been. I'm also using my Razortip Razor Mini Smoke Extractor, and as always I have links to all my equipment in the video description. For my third mini burning, I wanted to try something with a bit of shading, so I decided to do this sunflower. I outlined it with my knife tip pen and stippled the center with my ball tip pen. Then I tried to shade the petals a bit, but I quickly realized that I probably hadn't sanded this wood very well to begin with. I was getting a lot of lines in the shading from where the wood had been cut, and I think it was a combination of this being a harder wood and me just not doing a very good job sanding. The shading didn't look great, so I decided to paint it. I layered in yellows, oranges, and browns, and by the time I was finished, it had taken me about 45 minutes. This always seems to happen when I try and do a quick project. I can't just walk away from something unless I'm happy with how it looks, so I have a bit of a track record of turning a quick project into at least an hour worth of work. One thing that might help me work faster would be doing multiples of the same design, but every time I plan to do that, I get distracted and start something new instead. That said, I really like how this one turned out. I'm really happy with the color, so maybe I will do more of these. For my final mini test burning, I decided to do some mushrooms. They're still fairly simple because of the small size, but I think that they're the most complex of the four. I got halfway through outlining and then realized I wasn't recording, which was great, but you can probably still get the idea. I used my knife tip pen to outline them and then painted them. I'd actually sketched these out before doing the sunflower, and at the time I was planning to shade them, but after seeing how poorly the sunflower shading turned out, I changed my mind and decided to just paint them instead. And I think that was the right call. I really like how they turned out in the end. This one also took about 25 minutes since I didn't get quite as obsessive with the paint as I did with the sunflower. After finishing all 4 of these little burnings, I'd say this wood is okay, and if you wanted to give it a try, they're pretty worthwhile since they're only about $5 for a pack of 4 at Walmart. So I think this project would be really good for beginners. Now that I was used to the wood, I moved on to the larger round. It's about 6-7 inches in diameter, so still not huge, but big enough to do something more complex. I decided to use this photo of a cow that was taken by my friend Peter. I actually asked him for permission to burn this about 5 years ago and never got around to it, so hopefully that permission still holds. I'll link to his Instagram in the video description if you want to see more of his photography. I decided to add some spring flowers. I think I've seen something like this before too, though I'm not exactly sure where, so whoever you are, you've inspired me to make my own art that's similar to yours, I think. I looked up a bunch of reference photos for the flowers and added in all sorts of different flowers. If this project looks like fun to you, there's a printable pattern available on my website right now, including this one and the 4 mini practice burnings that I did in this video. So all you'd need to do is print it out at the right size, trace over it with some carbon paper, and then you can use this video if you need help burning it. One thing to note, the size of the flowers are definitely off. So if you're a flower person, please don't yell at me. I didn't bother figuring out what kinds of flowers I was drawing, I just picked ones I liked. I've never been really into gardening, it's kind of too much dirt and too many bugs for me, so I'm not great at identifying plants, and I'm sure that the proportions are all wrong. Also, the flowers that I took for the flower crown on his head were fake. I thought they were pretty, so that's why I did it, but they're not totally realistic. And then I just added in some leaves and little berries and things out of my head. So I think it looks nice, but if you're a plant person, it might just be nonsense. For the flowers, I used my ball tip pen to do most of the outlining and shading. They were so small and detailed that I really couldn't use my spoon shader. I considered adding color, but ended up just leaving them as is because I really liked how the burning looked on its own. Once the flowers were done, I burned the background dark to create contrast, and I really love how that turned out. Then I moved on to the flowers on the cow's head. I was on a bit of a roll, so I decided to just finish all the flowers at once. The reference I used for the bottom flowers were real flowers, and the ones on the cow's head were fake plastic flowers, so they're all different types, but I still think they turned out pretty cohesive in the end. This wood was a bit smelly while burning, so I used my razor tip smoke extractor, like I said before, for almost the whole time. If you're interested in upgrading your setup, I've linked to a lot of my equipment in the video description, and as always, I used my razor tip SSD10 wood burner. These bigger rounds were marketed for painting, not burning, but I still didn't expect the filler. If you're new to wood burning, just remember you are not only burning the wood, you're burning everything that's on the wood. That includes stains, finishes, paints, and apparently filler, and those things can release toxic fumes when burned, so it's always safest to burn on unfinished, untreated wood. Also, I don't know what kind of wood this is, so if you do, please let me know in the comments. I assumed it was fine for burning since the label on the smaller pieces showed wood burnings. I liked that this is a live edge round with bark, but it's not as thick as other live edge pieces that I've gotten before. It still looks nice since it's a round cut, and I usually like those, but I think I prefer the bark that's a little bit chunkier. The walnut hollow basswood pieces that I use are also cut at a slight angle, which I think is to show off the bark more. This one was cut straight across, so it didn't have quite as much of that live edge look as those ones do. But also, it's not basswood anyway, so it wasn't nearly as nice to burn as the walnut hollow ones either. One of the reasons I liked this photo of the cow is because he's got his tongue out. I really love references where the animal has some movement or kind of like a character, and I thought the way he's licking his nose was really cute. I was especially happy with how the mouth and nose area turned out, and I think the textures there look really nice. This is also where I had to work around that patch of wood filler in the middle of the round. I ended up just leaving it blank and painting it later on, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I went back to Walmart later, and most of them didn't have this, so I think I will use this wood again and just watch out for that next time. That's especially because they're only $5 and I can buy them at a store near my house, which I always prefer to do rather than buying online. For the wood filler, as you can see, I ended up just painting over it with a bit of brown watercolor to help it blend in, and now you can't really see it. Overall, this wood was really smooth and easy to burn. I'll probably use it again in the future just because it's available in person at a store that I go to regularly, and I am completely impulsive when it comes to art supplies, even though I definitely already have enough to last me over a year. One of the things that makes this cow so cute is its long hair. It was fun to burn, and I really liked that his face had a few different textures to work with. All in all, this took me about 10.5 hours to burn. It's not very big, but it has a lot of little details, which made it take longer. If you want to try this design yourself, definitely check out wildwoodstudio.ca, where I sell digital patterns that you can print and trace. I think this might be my favorite burning I've made in a long time, so I really hope you like it too. The last step was sealing it with a clear coat that has UV protection, adding some hardware for hanging, and it was done. Here's a picture of the finished burning. As always, please let me know what you think in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss all my future art videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.